Welcome, Martin, to the IoT For All Podcast. Thanks for being here this week.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Before we jump into it, I think it'd be great if you could give a quick overview, maybe your background and experience, and an introduction to the company, to our audience.
So a little bit of myself. I'm the Chief Technology and Product Officer at Com4. In this role, I ensure that our teams build the right products and services and also deliver this optimally to the customer. As for my background, I have 20 plus years experience in the cellular IoT industry. The last 5-6 years, I've been here at Com4, and prior to that, I was with the Norwegian telecom Telenor in various capacities. Formal background is mainly engineering with master degrees and PhDs from France, UK, and Denmark. I like to travel. And on top of that, executive business degree from Oslo.
So tell me a little bit more about Com4. So I know there's an integration going on you have with a wireless logic group who we're familiar with, we worked with in the past, and kind of what it means to have autonomy with as a full MVNO, and just kind of what does that mean? What are you all doing? Kind of what space you play and that kind of stuff.
Com4's was founded in 2011, and we built our business autonomously. A few years back, we were acquired by the wireless logic group, and they have preferred, for the most part, to leave us do our stuff where it makes sense, where there are synergies, collaboration on innovation, etc., experience sharing. We do collaborate. Com4 remains a brand due to the strength of the value proposition that we have. So it's working out very well.
When it comes to the focus from an industry perspective, from like customer perspective, like what is your sweet spot?
We cover many verticals. We don't have one vertical that we specialize in, but we're particularly strong in the AMS space, EV charging, and cellular broadband in various forms. And companies that require some extra support in the engineering, they want to develop a product and they want to discuss with cellular engineers in order to resolve the challenges that on the things that are new to them.
So let me ask you from your perspective how you kind of see things in the market. So IoT connectivity in general spans a wide range of applications. What are the biggest connectivity challenges across industries that you all see, and how should organizations approach those challenges?
Is really to understand whatever the application, connectivity is something you need to get right. One should consider what are the connectivity demands from the product or service that you want to succeed with. It can be technical stuff like bandwidth or battery constraints, etc. And can also be more wider stuff in the wider sense, like security, lifecycle, things that are not purely technical, but it requires discussion with a technical IoT specialist.
And how are you seeing the role of satellite IoT kind of play a role in bridging the connectivity gaps that exist, and just in general in the industry? Because we've been hearing about satellite IoT kind of growing for many years now. Gets more mature each year, but there's still some questions, there's still some hesitations, there's still some just like, areas of uncertainty when it comes to that for some people. So how do you all view the role of satellite IoT where it currently stands kind of today?
Satellite IoT will play a huge role as long as the use case allows for a clear view of the sky from the antenna, which typically is the case in the remote regions. We recently became an official Starlink reseller with a managed LEO connectivity product. We have a product suite for that. And we are therefore engaging in exciting conversations with customers. In our local market, we have vast areas in the north and even on the archipelago of Svalbard, bordering the Arctic Ocean. There may not be so many residents at those latitudes, but there are IoT opportunities such as mining, research, environmental monitoring. And for remote regions in general, some examples can be agriculture automation, fish farms, connecting sensors for detection of earthquakes or avalanches. So there are a lot of IoT things happening in rural areas. We have the up and running satellite broadband internet solution. And going forward, I also believe the 3GPP non-terrestrial network-based solutions, release 17 and 18 for NB-IoT and LTM, will be very valuable for asset tracking or sensor measurements, using IoT devices outside cellular coverage quite simply. So containers may spend much of the time voyaging the oceans far beyond ordinary cellular coverage. Additional use cases, there's this covering remote areas, but there's also this fallback aspect that if you really want to cover your business, there are some services which makes it worthwhile to have a fallback solution. And I think satellite is ready to play that role today.
So I guess from there, if we expand into thinking about IoT deployments, so pretty much any deployment you compare to another is they're not going to be the same, right? There's no two that are really alike. How should businesses be thinking about tailoring their connectivity solutions to fit these specific use cases, and kind of how are you thinking about it from your all's kind of strategic angle?
Businesses should aim to understand the role of connectivity for the service they offer, and importantly, how it may evolve. In general, the considerations of the pure technical aspects like power, uptime, space, cost, latency, bandwidth, that will influence the optimum choice of device, of the SIM, and the radio access technology supported. So a classic pitfall example is deploying 2G, 3G only devices in order to save device cost, even if the bandwidth requirements are more compatible with 4G throughput. And for services with constraints of power or space, then maybe the integrated SIM, and or maybe the low power wide area technologies like MDRT and LTM makes sense. And coming back when I mentioned about the wider considerations, lifetime, geography, regulations, security, potential future swap of providers, really important. I mean, we have MS implementations approaching 10 years lifetime now. And in the MS space, it really makes sense to buy high quality SIM cards with 15 years plus lifetime to avoid dispatching field engineers to replace failing SIMs after X years or Y cycles of rewriting the memory. And also these wider considerations, they have to cover security. Uh, um, I mean, recently we've had the introduction of the Cyber Resilience Act in the EU. And there's also this Cybersecurity Improvement Act in the US, where the manufacturers of IoT products actually need them to make them secure by design. And that includes things like supporting security updates throughout the product's lifetime. And that may have been a thing that the designers or product makers didn't think of originally, but they sure have to do it now. Think about how will I provide that security update in 6 years' time to avoid the fees or expensive callbacks of equipment. So in summary, understanding the right connectivity solution is a key success factor for a new product or service, and that's a good starting point. Going from there, finding a good partner to discuss these choices with and support you is obviously something we recommend.
How does like technologies like iSIM and multi-IMSI, like how are they becoming kind of more prevalent in the space? What potential do you see for unlocking new opportunities in the IoT industry?
Starting with the latter, multi-IMSI, it's been part of our solutions and also some of our competitors' solutions for many years. And we find it a quite efficient way of navigating roaming and coverage optimally. We make more and more active use of it to ensure customers benefit from the best of our 750 networks globally. You have, for example, transportation cases and logistic business where each lorry, pallet, container, or packet in a customer fleet can touch any country in a region, say Europe, and no IMSI alone have the best coverage or the best cost. So using the optimal IMSI per country to unlock the best roaming agreements improves the service for the customer. iSIM, that's a more recent standard. And here the SIM is integrated into the system on chip, and this reduces the module's power and space consumption. What we find very important at Com4 is that it achieves this without sacrificing the hardware level security or the interoperability. I think this iSIM will for sure unlock new IoT opportunities, in particular with companies that make a connected product or themselves or via an OEM. The space and power are really attractive benefits. Some of those companies have the resources to succeed in using iSIM because you have to manage the logistics in the supply chain.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, something we haven't talked too much about, is just the customer centric focus that IoT companies, solution providers need to have, and or some have, some don't. But what does it truly mean in the IoT space when we're talking about being kind of customer centric, and how can businesses make sure they align their strategies to deliver real value to their customers when they're working with them?
For us, the customer centricity boils down to being a true partner and fundamentally understand that we succeed through the success of our customers. So it's really in our mission to help our customers succeed. In order to do that, you have to know your customer. So you have to engage in conversations and gather all the experience you get from those conversations and experience and share it through the team so that the nuggets that you find here and there are not lost with one person in the company. So we have to collect those. When customers, when it's obvious that it's important for them to succeed in their automation efforts, then it's a top priority for us to ensure our APIs are up to the task. And other customers may have more commercial type of challenges, and then we also try to assist in solving those, seeing what is good for them and good for us. And our belief is also that doing this is good for business because reputation and recommendations is by far the most valuable marketing there is.
We actually just had a conversation with the head of the LoRa Alliance the other day, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about some stuff that kind of in that space, not necessarily LoRa, but LPWAN kind of technologies. What are you seeing as kind of, I guess, emerging trends and technologies that businesses that are connected to the IoT space, working with the IoT space, have maybe their own deployments out there? What technologies are the ones they should be paying most attention to right now as they kind of as the industry continues to grow and emerge? Just like what are the ones that are really making the most, I guess, noise and going or potentially have the most change happening soon?
First of all, the low power wide area, LPWA. We see the usefulness in many regions with a great NB-IoT and LTM footprint to use those technologies when there are power constraints or coverage penetration constraints, like indoor AMS, for example. But we also recognize there can be challenging or challenges in other parts of the world. For some global deployments, we see the somewhat older LT Cat 1bis emerge as a workhorse for global deployment, and maybe 5G RedCap further down the road. Second on my radar is the new IoT RSP, SGP32 standard, newly finalized. It can make a difference for many companies because it's then more flexible to swap profiles and thereby change the properties of the connectivity. So my advice for new customers or new projects with existing customers is to assess whether it makes sense for you as a company, and importantly, what are the drivers? We tend to discuss technology a lot, like understanding what's the technology, but you also have to think some steps ahead, like why do you want to use it? Is it just a more efficient insurance model? Is it active optimization of profiles from the same supplier? Or you really want to shop dynamically profiles from different suppliers? And if so, are you ready to procure this optimally? Are you willing to handle the complexity of managing connectivity from several providers? And you actually control the EIM function that enables you to choose different connectivity providers. So there are some debates that I think it's important to consider if a customer or a company wants to move in that direction.
Let me ask another question kind of tied into the direction we've been going in this conversation is we've been talking about the technologies to pay attention to, how companies can kind of remain customer centric, what that means. But from an industry perspective, when it comes to the different industries that are getting the most, I guess, growth, the most transformation in the IoT space, where are these technologies that we're talking about, I guess, helping us go in maybe new industries that are going to start to see the benefits of IoT that they were not seeing before because the technology wasn't there. Like you talked about accessing remote regions and getting connectivity in areas you weren't able to before. What are those industries that you kind of have your eye on, or you think you're going to have see the biggest impact of IoT over the next few years?
The most transformative evolution I see is the positive spiral of IoT together with AI and the processing power of the cloud. In general, IoT feeds AI with data from the physical world for training models. And in return, and this we observe a lot, is that AI opens up new opportunities for the IoT application or the IoT business cases. As an example, we have a customer in the smart waste management where AI is applied to analyze radar scans of construction site waste containers, so indicating the fill level and potentially going forward also content. And this saves collection and storage costs and may contribute to the circular economy. And this example shows that this this would never be possible without AI, as radar scans they're data rich and hard to interpret, and AI could not get the right training to do so, learning to do so without IoT transferring loads of scans. Combine that with edge AI, where actually more processing is taking place in the IoT device itself. That also opens up new opportunities because you have customers who they use ultrasound to monitor if smart building elements are working correctly. And it's fine to send 100,000 hours of audio over a mobile network. But if you want to do connected cameras, then you may want to do more AI-based processing on the edge. So that's also something exciting to follow. Where will the trade-off be of centralized processing versus edge, and how does it impact the IoT industry?
I have two questions that kind of go together. So if we're talking to an audience out there who's looking to figure out how they can succeed with IoT deployments or how they can continue maybe improve what they've already done, what are the challenges that businesses that are maybe getting started on their IoT journey may face when adopting IoT? And then on the other side of that is what ingredients really make for a successful IoT deployment and potentially overcoming those challenges?
I'd like to stress the importance of focusing on the business outcome, knowing what you want to achieve, and cover that well. This is true no matter the IoT deployment. Sometimes this translates into a more complex IoT solution, and sometimes quite straightforward solution. Nevertheless, a small leak can sink a great ship. So I'd like to stress that you have to be diligent in this process. Cover the technical aspects and privacy and security and so forth. And to do so successfully, you should partner up with someone that has the competency and can give you advice on the IoT connectivity part that you may not be an expert in. Many of our customers or companies we talk with, they are really great at technology, but they haven't spent that much time on IoT or cellular technologies in general. So they appreciate some discussions in that field. The second part is to consider the total cost of ownership and the business cases holistically. For example, revenue loss from downtime or the cost of dispatching field engineers often has much higher negative impact on the bottom line than saving some cents a month on a cheaper IoT connection with lower quality. Ensure that the security, the robustness, everything matches the service that you want to provide.
Where do you think, kind of going forward, the biggest opportunities for businesses looking to leverage IoT in maybe new, unexpected ways, something that's not kind of maybe as well known to our audience or the general industry?
Across the verticals, there are so many ingenious companies, and I'm myself surprised quite often when we engage with customers or prospects. We have, for example, a customer reference of smart kindergarten, where a company want to run the kindergarten mostly out in the forest, and then you have the challenge of making sure that you know where the kids are and they're not venturing too far from the staff. And they have clothing equipped with trackers and a geofencing solution so that the staff taking care of the children are alerted if they venture too far from it. So quite simple, but it enables an exciting use case in that space. Personally, I find it very rewarding to consider how IoT can contribute to meet the ESG targets. Meeting the environmental targets will benefit from all the data and the insight IoT can provide. And there are also a lot of business-driven use cases that benefit the environment, such as smart maintenance or optimization of solar installations or wind power installations. And some of them benefits from the technologies I mentioned, like iSIM or RSP or LPWA. So you have to consider the use case and what technologies fit into it. And lastly, IoT will make a huge impact on health and care services. We have an aging population in many countries, and there are not enough hands to take care of us when we grow old, quite simply. So we better come up with some ingenious ways to alleviate the burden of hospitals and care centers. So remote patient services can be a field where IoT makes a difference.
It's an exciting time. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the space, a lot of different industries getting access to, or I guess getting access to new use cases that were not as available or as able to be used given the technology. And as it's matured and we've gotten better in a lot of different areas, we've seen a lot of growth there. So it's really exciting to kind of see these new spaces get involved in IoT and really start to see the benefits of accessing data they didn't have access to before. Given where Com4 is now, kind of what's happening going forward, like what are you most excited about, what should people be on the lookout for, what are you all doing as we kind of move into the future?
I think we continue the work on iSIM. iSIM is there, but we follow the maturity. We try to raise awareness among the customers, follow the maturity of the vendors and of modules and chipsets. and also the developing standards for in-factory profile provisioning, enabling optimal upload or download of the right connectivity profile to the right device. And from there, I personally believe that uh, eSIM variants of iSIMs, so IEUICC, where a small iSIM and the device using it can be distributed into the field, and upon power up, download the optimal profile during the localization, because that can elevate the logistic problems that you still have with iSIM. Is with iSIM, you don't have to take the correct physical SIM and insert it into the device anymore, but you still have a logistics challenge of sending the batch of devices with the right profile out in the field, unless you're able to optimize it further. So this really excites us. I think satellite space, it's great for the LEO connectivity, but the end-to-end, if you have more satellites in the space soon, then there'll be improved coverage and open up for NB-IoT satellite use cases.
And our audience that's listening, where can they learn more about Com4, learn more about what you're doing, stay in touch, follow up, anything like that?
If you visit our website, com4.no, so com and the digit 4 and then .no, you can learn more about some of the customer references I just mentioned. We have a collection of white papers and more coming up, and also possible to grab a IoT iSIM demo kit. So worthwhile checking out.
Well, Martin, thank you so much for jumping on here and kind of talking through all these different topics and questions. Good advice out there for our audience, good information, kind of what you're seeing in the industry. Really appreciate the time and would love to have you back later this year.
Thanks, Ryan. It was a pleasure being here.